Hi everyone. Today we did get another continuation higher here. You can see the gap, a little bit of consolidation, a little bit of pullbacks, and then a rally here into the close. This candle consolidation towards the end of the close though does look a little concerning. Big wick rejection here on volume. Following candle was a confirmation candle down here on the 15-minute chart, so something to consider there. But let's take a look at all of the charts and see if we can find any information for tomorrow's moves. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, we got the White House coming out and saying that Canada caved to Trump over the digital services tax. We talked about this and the potential to pull back markets. We did have a slight pullback on this initial announcement on the breaking off of trade talks with Ottawa. We talked about that last time, but now it seems like they have hastily rescinded that digital services tax, and now I think we are going to see this continue in terms of communications. And put very simply, of course, you have the White House coming out saying that the Prime Minister of Canada caved, and this is putting America on top as they like to continue to message. But in terms of the economy, this is good news. This means the trade talks should be back on track, and hopefully we don't see too many more blips like this. We don't want to see those trade talks just abruptly broken off. That's not going to be good for markets, but it seems like the trade deals around the world are starting to come to fruition a little bit faster than people thought. You got China being done, India potentially being done, UK being done, and now if you have Canada back on the table, that is a lot of the major players here in the Trump trade war or tariff talks, however you want to think about it, and this should be good overall and long-term for markets, in my opinion. Moving over to fear and greed, we are getting very, very close here to extreme greed. It's been a while since we've been anywhere near that, but we're at a 67. Extreme greed starts at a 75. We were up 3 points here today, so just a couple more days like today, we will be in extreme greed on this overall metric, which is not usually a great time to be buying the markets. You can see very, very close there. And looking at the metric, April, pretty good time to buy. Says we were all the way down at a 4 and a 6. I don't remember seeing those numbers quite that low, but now once we were up in the 70s, not a great time. We did see some pullbacks, and then back here, October 70s, we did see substantial pullbacks from there. So just keep that in mind. In terms of individual indicators, momentum back into greed after being in extreme greed for basically forever. And then looking at strength here, extreme greed as well, breadth, extreme greed, put call ratio, extreme greed, nearly every metric, extreme greed. Volatility, neutral, pretty unusual to see that one outside of neutral to fear. And then safe haven demand, greed, junk bond demand, still in greed. So nearly every metric in greed or extreme greed, except for volatility. So again, as a contrarian metric, not a super great time to be buying the markets for the long term. Moving over to seasonality, remember there is just a little bit of pullback potential this week into that third to kind of seventh time period, and then bullish through the rest of the month here. So just a little bit of hesitation and pullback potential for the next 2 to 3 trading days. Moving over to the economic calendar, Chicago PMI came in not super great at a 40.4. Would have liked to see that coming a little bit better, but not a huge impact on markets. For tomorrow, you got FedPal speaking, CPI for the Eurozone, fairly interesting. Some soft data here with some ISM data. Manufacturing PMI expected to be a 48.8. We've seen some pretty consistent contraction there. Want to see that improve over the next couple months as we see some manufacturing come back, but realistically that could take years. And then JOLTS job openings tomorrow here at 10 o'clock. That'll give us a little bit of a precursor for the jobs data we get later. Atlanta Fed GDP, that's been stepping down here for Q2 in terms of estimates. And then for the Wednesday, you get ADP non-farms, again, a little bit of a forecast there, Eurozone unemployment rate. And then for the Thursday, don't forget we have all of that jobs data coming in on Thursday instead of Friday because of the holiday and a short trading session on the Thursday as well. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps here, you can see we got a gap up and a doji, about 0.5% here. Really choppy session like we talked about on the intro, but in terms of a price target, still looking for this trend line here around 621.50 or so. Might continue to drift up just slightly, 621.75. And then looking at that hourly chart here, you can see gap up, pulled back, tested some of this structure, tested some of these highs from back here, and then we rallied into the close on volume, ramping volume. Everything was was good there. Again, a little bit concerned about that big wick rejection. Got all the way up to a high of day of 619.22, so just off of the price target that we talked about. Then got a little bit of a pullback, but seems to be holding up okay in the after hours. Not a big waterfall off or anything. And then in terms of structure, of course, this is still very much bullish with higher highs and higher lows, continuing to uptrend here on that 15-minute chart. And then looking at that hourly chart, give you a little bit more context. 21 EMA continues to be support here, came back, touched that level, saw a nice bounce, looking for the trend line here in that same region. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we did continue to hold that 8 EMA on the 4-hour chart. That continues to sit around 614.29, came back and tested that on the 12 o'clock candle. These candles are just a little bit different here on the Tasty charts. They run a 0.8 and a 1200. And then your upper limit here for that price target is going to be that 620.47 level, so just a little bit below the trend line. Would suspect that we're going to get at least a touch of there. Still very much bullish conditions. Your trailing stop 607.67 here on the 4-hour chart. And then looking at that hourly chart here, you can see same kind of setup. Did see a little bit of bearish conditions just briefly off of that kind of Canada news sell that we saw, but now we got that reversal, gap up kind of consolidation here. 21 EMA holding, upper target is going to be that 620 area. Again, huge volume coming through on that bullish candle. Did see just a little bit of a sell after, but I suspect that's buying volume and that we should see some continuation tomorrow. Moving over to the NASDAQ charts here, again, very similar thesis, gap up, pull back, hit the trend lines here, and then saw a bounce. Again, really nice volume at the end of the session. Doji candle up about 0.65% on the day, or about $3.50. After hours holding flat, like to see that, and then momentum still bullish. You are super overbought here on the daily chart. Doesn't seem to matter, at least in the short term, but I'm sure that it will in the medium to long term. 72.91. Again, not usually a great time to be buying the markets, but if you're in it, you can absolutely continue to hold. We haven't seen any changes to the structure. Everything that pulls back continues to be bought up on the areas of support that you would suspect, and that was no different here today. So continues to be bullish. Just watching these EMAs as support. 21 EMA right now, 549.70. Moving over to the Tasty charts here on the 4-hour, continues to hold that 8 EMA as support right now. That is 548.33. Came down, touched that area, bounced a little bit. Still grinding between that 8 EMA and your upper ATR band. Upper band right now is 551.94. We did get very close to that area, but I do believe we're going to get a little bit more out of it tomorrow. Again, you are extended for sure. We're already at that upper band, starting to see this rally slow down just a little bit. Just like we saw on the RSI, we're already overbought, so just keep those things in mind. Does that mean that the rally is going to end? Absolutely not. This can continue to be extended for a long period of time here, and you can see that hesitation we had Friday pushed back into bullish conditions immediately on the open this morning. Pulled back slightly, 21 EMA, continuation towards that upper ATR band. On the 4-hour chart, that is going to be 554.62. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell was just barely positive, 0.14 to the upside. Hit this trend line and rejected once again. This trend line continues to be very painful overhead resistance. We get to that zone, we reject multiple times. Now we got here back beginning of June, end of June, we're here again, multiple tests over the last 2 days. Are we going to push through here to that next zone, kind of the 218 to 221 area? Certainly a possibility, but for now, continues to show rejection in this area, and we are sitting right on that 200 as well at 215.72. We closed at 215.79, so technically we did close above it, which was nice, but in the after hours we are drifting back below it there, so something to consider. Don't love that setup. Want to see the Russell show a little bit more strength here. If it breaks 214, definitely watch out below. This could absolutely fall a couple of percentage points back down to that 21 EMA. Around 211 would be your kind of support area. As long as that holds, then you're still in a bullish structure, but in the short term, definitely extended. And then looking at the Dow here, 0.61 pretty much in line with the major indices. Your level for your take profit would be that 441.43 area. High of day was 441.26. So if you took profits, totally understand. You got the level break here, continuation to the next one. Nice move. Next level, if 441 goes, would be 445.16, which would be your all-time high. So something to consider. Do we get to all-time highs here on the Dow? Absolutely a possibility. You can see what I mean here. You had this longer consolidation in February before the breakdown, and we are getting very close to that zone as a potential resistance once once again. Moving over to the Mag 7, the Mag 7 did not go higher here today. So I noticed this during the session. A lot of the Mag 7 names were not continuing higher with the move, and the Mag 7 was actually down 0.02 or 7 cents back below that level. 330.67 was the level we were watching, and we did close again below it at 330.44 after testing a level much higher than it. Momentum still bullish. RSI a little bit overbought here. We were talking about this range on the Mag 7. We're in here once again, very close to those all-time highs, but not quite there. Is this the start of a potential rejection from this level? I think it's a little bit too early to say that, but there's definitely hesitation in this area, and the Mag 7 did not lead us higher today, which again is definitely concerning. You want your leaders to remain strong as the rally continues, and that is not necessarily what we got today. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple had a really nice day, up 2%. We talked about this as a potential higher low setup. We talked about it as holding this 21 EMA and the level at 199.54. We got multiple tests of that level, and then it finally found support and pushed right to the next one, 207.14. We talked about this as a consolidation range. Anything below 196 was kind of your buy range here. I would still say your sell range is probably anything above 211. Definitely, if you did get to that 200, absolutely sell it in there, in my opinion, around that 223 area. Do we even get that high? I still think that's probably not going to happen. You have multiple tests of this zone here around 211 to 217, somewhere in here as a zone of resistance. Do we get there again? I think you could definitely look for that kind of a move, but in terms of levels, 207.14 is your resistance. You got the trend line there as well as resistance, but you did see a little bit of volume here today. I could see why you would want to stay a little bit bullish on Apple. And then Microsoft, another positive day. Not a lot, but a little. 0.4 momentum fading, super overbought at a 77.77 on the RSI. Is this finally where we get a little bit of hesitation and allow some of these indicators to catch up? Again, probably too early, but something to consider. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla continues to fall after this kind of double topping pattern around this 350 area. 55 EMA is going to be important around 307.16. If it does break through there, then you're probably looking back for this kind of 280 to 264 area. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. I would assume this is going to continue to fall here. And then looking at NVIDIA, again, slight hesitation, very similar to what we saw on Microsoft. Ended up just 24 cents on the day, or 0.15. Momentum is bullish, but super overbought at a 76.79. Is it going to continue higher? I would say probably, but in terms of right now, it's probably going to pull back in time, maybe a little bit of a pullback in price before we get any continuations higher. It's just super overbought, and it needs a little bit of time to cool off. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples had a nice day once again on the back of the Friday move. A little bit of a risk off play there, up 0.5%, bouncing off of this 79 area, bouncing back towards this 81.18 area. Hasn't quite touched it yet, probably has a little bit more in it. And then looking at discretionaries here, tried to go higher, couldn't do it. We said 219.18 is the level. We got very close to it. We didn't quite touch it here today. High of day was 219. If we can get through here, I think there's a lot of potential upside, but markets are continuing to hesitate in this area. Also notice a pretty strong divergence on the RSI. The RSI 15 May was overbought. We're at the same exact price area that we were right now that we were back then, but your RSI is at a 58.18. So definitely weakening on the relative strength. It'll be interesting to see if this does start to roll over or not. Moving over to breadth. Breadth did continue to improve here, as you would suspect. The Mag 7 was pulling back, not leading markets, but markets continued to go higher, so breadth must be improving. That was kind of the underlying thought, and sure enough, that was the case here. So breadth did go a little bit higher through the 68.14 area. Same here on 50-day, holding above that 68.66 level. Can we get above 77? Maybe, maybe not, but right now, momentum swinging back to bullish a little bit. RSI right at the SMA on 50-day, and of course 20-day indicators still both very bullish. Moving over to the dollar here, the dollar continues to crater as we kind of suspected that it would. We finally got the touch of that 96.58 level as we again were looking for. Talked about it, bunch of days of selling here in a row on the daily chart. Still suspect that we're going to go down to this trend line here around 96.40 or so. We'll see if that happens. Momentum bearish, RSI at a 29.37. Again, that is oversold conditions, so makes sense that we are continuing to sell off into the zone of support. Once we get a touch here, I would suspect we'll see at least a little bit of a relief rally similar to this, where you got at least a little bit of a pullback and then a bigger continuation lower. So we'll see. Right now, the dollar continues to look very bearish. Moving over to bonds. Bonds continue to look amazing here, up a third on JNK, TLT up 1% or so, right to that 144 EMA area. Still think we're going to go to 98.16. Still think this is a great opportunity. We've been talking about it forever. I still believe bonds are going to go much, much higher from here. Hopefully you're continuing to buy them in here, but we'll see. Bonds continue to look good, and I do believe these are going to continue to go much higher. In terms of JNK, after this 97 area, and it'll be interesting to see what happens once we start to hit some of these price targets. Moving over to the VIX. The VIX did see a little bit of a spike up after touching the trend line, just like we thought that it might. Momentum bullish, RSI not quite bullish. Momentum bearish, RSI not quite bullish yet, but I do believe this is starting to swing up at least a little bit. We're at a critical pivot point. Does this start to rally through? Certainly a possibility. Again, could absolutely pause here for a while, a couple of days, and I think that's probably the most likely case, but this is a zone of support, and multiple times now we've come here and rallied, and we are starting to see this a little bit in markets with those super overbought conditions. Does that mean the rally is done? Probably not, but just another thing to consider as we start to hit these really high levels. Moving over to my accounts, I was up about $450 today, so you like to see that. In terms of the Russell, I took profits on that put position for today, got about $32 out of that. A lot of the profits had already come in on the Friday, but for tomorrow, we have a 215 put. I didn't want to be too close to the money. I thought about selling the 216s, but then we saw a little bit of a bearish structure there that we talked about on the charts. So I wanted to stay a little bit further out at 215 for 60 cents, and I'll probably watch this closely to potentially roll down to 214 for the following day, depending on what we see from the Russell tomorrow. The structure just doesn't look super great at that zone of resistance, and then for the Qs, of course, everything continues to look really, really good. Bullish on this position. We are a little bit above my max profit now, not super worried about it. Max profit there is 550.32. Stock price right now 551.30, so about $1 above. Not super worried about it. Still plenty of credits to come in over the next couple weeks. We're about 46 days right now, so I could go potentially 1 week out, but I think I'm going to sit on it. We are super, super extended, like I said, so eventually we will see some kind of pullbacks. How far of a pullback remains to be seen, but for now, I'm comfortable with this position. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the Canada trade talks. Is this going to be a problem, or is it all settled? Will there be any other countries that have any hard lines with the United States where we start to pull out of trade talks? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.